The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show would like to acknowledge the traditional land owners and the leaders past, present and emerging of Ngunnawal, Ngambri and Darawal countries where we are working from today. This always was, and always will be, Aboriginal land.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Oh god, this episode has to be one of the worst ones.
That's just me slapping in sunscreen, mate.
I just feel like I'm not there for a rectal exam. It's there for just, just a quick check.
Mate, we can always schedule you for that. It's just going to cost up.
Aussie.
Here's an update. I think there's 2 seagulls having sex next to my car. This is the weirdest shit I've ever seen.
So film it and create a new platform called Only Goals.
NFL.
Yeah, I'm not even believing that. I'm sorry, but I'm not even believing that.
Fantasy.
This is the weirdest fucking... I'm sorry, I'm rattled.
Oh my gosh. Just went from bad to worse. Oh god.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
How much of this will Matty cut out, by the way?
I don't know, probably
This is
Sorry, just got AIDS then.
Welcome in to the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show for a strange, weird feeling segment that we haven't done in such a long time. It's kind of just replacing the public defender because we don't have him this week. He's off improving his life. But of course, your boy Matty C, joined by... Who are you again?
Tua Tagovailoa. Tua Taylor Tagovailoa? Or Tua Goodall? I don't know. We're just mixing it up here. Back to the 2-piece feed, me and you, Matty. It's been a while. This all we used to be back in the day for the first couple of years. So, just doing a couple of segments and just with us two. Manjot's obviously being a crack legal mind and needs to do all of his uni stuff. So, we just thought we'll delve into some of this stuff together, and we're actually bringing back a segment that we've done together last year.
It's kind of weird to only have the two of us, but
yeah,
I mean, there's a beautiful familiarity, which I'm sort of looking forward to doing, because this was our segment last year. We did this a couple of times last year. It was something of our own creation. So I kind of like it's just us two doing this.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was something that helped. I know it helped me. It sort of got me having a look, bit of a forward think into like matchups for the next 3 or 4 weeks, or just people I think are probably lower valued than they need to be. And I know I did that. I know I talked about Keenan Allen last year, and I made the bold call when he was at about wide receiver 35 that he was going to beat Mike Williams, who was like wide receiver 4 at the time, and then he ended up beating him. So it was one call I was pretty proud of last year, and I traded for him off the back of that episode in a lot of leagues. And Keenan Allen literally he got me a title in Astro League. I think he was part of my team in the title win. I think he got me to a grand final in another league. Like basically every league I got him in took me to success. So that's why I think there's a lot you can take out of this segment in any league.
A lot of value in it, especially so that was advice we were giving based off, we were just using the data from our own 16-team league where, so rankings, they're based in the rankings that we had from how our league scores. But, close enough because our scoring isn't all that different. But you were just saying, and I completely agree with you, how much it makes you think about the strategic part of, this guy might be overperforming. How do I kind of shift him before the world catches up? And how do I get myself hitched onto a wagon of somebody who's a decent punt to just kind of, exceed what everyone thinks he's up to now? And it's kind of, I guess that's super coach. This is something that you do extremely well. In fact, on this island, you're one of the premier super coach players, which is a salary capped version of fantasy for the major sport on the East Coast, sort of north of Victoria, the rugby league. And you're a tremendous exponent of creating value from people who are underperforming and the market doesn't love, and selling guys who are probably overperforming who the market's completely in love with, who the bubble's going to burst on. So this is why I think you're an excellent person to go through this with.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Like Supercoach it's so different from playing NFL fantasy in terms of it being a redraft or playing a draft league in Supercoach. Yeah. But then it's also got a lot of similarities too. Like you could almost look at players in NFL fantasy like they're a stock. Like, are they about to go up? Are they about to go down? Are they going to stay the same? What's coming up for them in the future? It is very similar in Supercoach as well because players have an actual value. Players have a dollar amount. So you actually need to sort of forecast whether guys are going to make money or whether they're about to plummet and sell them before they're about to plummet, or obviously pick up guys before they're about to make a bunch of money, and then you can make a decision on whether to sell them high as well. So I feel like a segment like this definitely helps with that. It helps with trading massively. Like if you're thinking about getting into trade, if you're in a league out there and you haven't been trading, this is the kind of segment to listen to go, these are the guys that are getting undervalued. These are the guys who I think are overvalued right now. Maybe I send an overvalued guy and I may be able to pick up 2 underrated guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, wow, what a way to turn things around too, is if you can go, right, so I've got this guy who the market loves. Everyone thinks he's, performing like a champ and it's completely sustainable. I disagree. I'm going to turn that into 2 people who I think will completely turn it around. And it's all one thing to ship off a guy who you think's overperforming to pick up a guy who's underperforming. But gee, if you can turn it into that plus interest, that is how you win leagues. And just your experience with doing that with Supercoach, and like you are one of the better players of that on this whole island. And there's no 2 ways about that. There is absolutely, you can't be humble about that. You really are. And I think that's where we're just really lucky to get your insight on a segment like this. And people who are watching this may not actually know that about your life outside of the NFL fantasy circle. But yeah, folks, if you ever want to know anything about Supercoach Rugby League, salary cap leagues like that, this man, find him on social media and talk to him about it, because he's a fine exponent of it.
Prosecution calls their first witness.
Do not panic just yet. Even I am guilty of panicking.
I mean, what, are you going to detain the guy for just having a couple of bad days? I don't want people to follow me around at work and detain me whenever I have a bad day.
20 bloody 8th, Your Honour. Sorry for the cursing in your old courtroom, sorry.
I will allow it.
Look, this segment was great last year. What we did, we ran it a couple of times through the year. And this year, just because our format's been a little different, we haven't really found a way to work it in. And then when we knew Manjot was going to have a really tough week, we thought, here's the week to do it, right? Let him go and do what he needs to do to go and progress his life in a positive way with all his law stuff and stuff. But this is a great way for us to just parachute in and do this segment. And what we did was we brought 3 guys each who we think are candidates that are worth selling high because we think their value is overinflated and there's potentially reason to be worried about that. And great candidates to trade because maybe other people aren't thinking that yet. And 3 guys who we think, it's about to go bang. The arrow's only pointing up, but maybe the market isn't onto that yet as well. But we haven't talked about them before. We don't know who each other have got. So that's kind of also a bit of fun for us in this segment too, is we haven't even talked about it. We just don't even know who each other are bringing.
We did that last year. Sometimes we have the same, and that's just how it is. I don't think that matters. Like, if anything, if we bring the same guy up, it just proves that we both are aligned on that guy. So I think we can still both talk about him. And then, like I said, out there, people can make their own decisions based off the advice we're giving.
Yeah, 100%. Well, look, without further ado, I'm going to throw it to you to give me the pointer here because, I mean, it's called buy low, sell high. There's no reason we have to do it in that order. But what order do you want to do them in? Take advice from you on this one.
What we might do is we'll go through all our buy lows and we'll go back and forward. So I'll start with one, you go, blah, blah, blah. So we'll bounce back and forth. And then I think if someone says one that you've got, then you might as well just go straight into that as a backup. If I say someone and you've got them, you might as well just say your case straight after it. So,
got it.
All right. I have a bit of symmetry this year. I think I went pretty wide receiver heavy last year on some of mine, whereas I've actually gone 1 quarterback, 1 wide receiver, 1 running back. And to be honest, that wasn't exactly how I'd planned it. It's just how it sort of worked for me. So I didn't sort of bother with tight end. I wasn't too fussed with that. But I basically got a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver in both segments here.
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah.
I will start with my buy low quarterback, and it's Justin Fields at quarterback 19. So I'll make my case here. So his last 3 scores, and this is exactly what you're after in fantasy. Like I mentioned with stocks, you're after someone who's on the rise. His last 3 scores are 15, 21, and 26. He has over 11 rushing attempts per game in those games, over 70 rushing yards in those games. His next 3 matchups, Miami, Detroit, Atlanta, who are 26th, 31st, and 29th against quarterback respectively. they're basically, that's honestly all my case. Like, it's just the numbers game. You know, you're seeing a guy ascending who all of a sudden gets unbelievable matchups. He scored that 26 against Dallas, who are in the top 5 against quarterback, and, you know, just taking turnovers for days. So the fact that he was able to do that against such a good defense gives me the confidence that he's going to do even better, or at least the same, against these terrible defenses coming forward. So, and like I said, they just traded for Claypool today, so at least they're trying to give him some more weapons, and you're starting to see more passes from him. You saw some games early in the year where he was only thrown for 12, 15 times, but he's actually been in the mid-20s a couple of times recently. So he's definitely on the way up with that too. So I think this offense in general might be on the rise a little bit.
I think so too. I mean, I think it matters. I think when you trade away a big part of your defense, because your defense is good, but it's not enough to win games and put you in a spot where your offense can still chase a deficit. Every time the Bears got behind them, like, well, there's that. They just don't have the horses to catch it up. I mean, it's a lot like watching another rugby league throwback. Every time this year the Dragons got behind a game, I'm like, well, we're not catching that up. Like, we had to be front runners because we just don't have the horses. And this is exactly how I felt about the Bears. And I was talking to Lady Shot Caller, and you should check her out at Lady Shot Caller on Instagram today about this. She completely agreed. She's the biggest Bear fan I know, even bigger than Mark Carmichael. By the way, shout out to Mark Carmichael up in Darwin. Check him out at Beer Top End. But hey, you know, I just think that this is a big deal for the Bears. So you get rid of a part of your defense, and you invest in offense in an offense-driven league, and you're investing in a young quarterback who all of a sudden is now sort of showing the trajectory that he can do it. The league's slowing down for him a bit. I think it matters. And I think, you know, for fantasy, if that's the case, that's a recipe you want, right? This is kind of what you're seeing with a guy like, you know, Trevor here, is all of a sudden things are slowing down for him, and now they're investing in parts for an offense for him. So I just think they're the right recipe, and that's what you see with a guy like Josh Allen, who was trying to do it all on his own. Then they invested in parts in an offense for him. Oh, now look at how he goes. So I mean, not everyone's Josh Allen. It's not a direct comparison, but the recipe card is the same.
Yeah, and we all know how skewed fantasy success for quarterbacks is to the running game. So the fact he's got all those rushing numbers in the last 3 weeks is just massive for his floor in fantasy.
Yeah, it matters. I mean, the difference between this year and last year is the rushing floor was so much of his value. Now it's not all of his value. He can pass it. He just doesn't have great weapons to do it. Now he's getting an extra one, which I think matters. I mean, that's all. I think it matters. Would you rather be passing to Dante Pettis or Chase Clay?
And I just think this regime is finally seeing what works best for Justin Fields. Like, Matt Nagy basically had this shitty offense that wasn't planned for Justin Fields at all. And so a new regime comes in now, and they've actually been able to sort of see Fields for a few games and actually build an offense to help his skills instead of, you know, trying to throw. Like, I think they had Andy Dalton in at the start of last year, and I think they built the offense around him. And then all of a sudden, Fields had to run an Andy Dalton offense, and it just wasn't working. Whereas this time, they've been able to actually build it around Fields, and I think that just makes a massive difference.
I mean, my first buy low, I don't know that you're going to like this too much, actually, because it's a play that's, I guess, similar to yours in a way, in that, you know, not everyone can go and just improve their team by taking on Justin Fields, because some people have got really good quarterbacks. What I'm saying is, if you're in a position where you need a bit of, where you're getting by and you're winning, but you just want something that might kick you the extra gear later, I say buy Deshaun Watson for free now. Just put him on your bench. He's not going to cost you anything. He's not, like, he's owned in a bunch of leagues around the place, but no one's starting him. If he's available in your league and you don't have Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, or Lamar Jackson, then pretty much he would be worthwhile to just throw on there, because those guys aren't always guaranteed great matchups at times that it matters. And Deshaun Watson will be as fresh as they come. And he's also mobile, and I just think it is worthwhile. That offense is probably better than it's been for a long time, and we're seeing Jacoby Brissett win with it. So I'm saying go and get yourself some Watson wherever you can get it, and it's probably a good time to be able to trade for him.
Yep, it makes sense. It completely fits this segment. It couldn't be any more of a buy low. Obviously, not playing at all this season so far, and I thought that game on Monday Night Football was a real sort of I don't know, fork in the road for the Browns this year. I really feel like if they'd lost that game, they probably would have traded Kareem Hunt and they probably would have just gave up on the season. Not to say that Deshaun wouldn't have come in still and had a decent finish of the year, but I just think they would have pretty much just folded a bit and they probably would have started losing more games. And, you know, like I said, Hunt probably would have gone. You might have seen some more Dearness Johnson just to see what they've got. It just might have been a bit of a shitstorm for the Browns, but they got that big win over the Bengals on Monday Night Football. And I just think it might rejuvenate them. And then, you know, they know that Deshaun isn't too far away. And if they can get another couple, they'll go to 500. And, you know, 500 with Deshaun coming back would be seen as a success. So I just think in general, like you're seeing Amari Cooper actually get really, really good production with Brissett, which is amazing. I think he's wide receiver 8 or something like that on the season now. And I know he had a couple of sort of off games, which happened to be whenever the hell I played him in Buddy Dynasty. It was every time I didn't play him, he
puts up 18 on your bench.
Yeah, it was just killing me for a while. But, you know, he wide receiver 8 on the year with Brissett. I think that tandem between Watson and a Cooper could be massive at the end of the year. And they've got a decent pass catches. You've also got Peoples-Jones there who looks quite decent. So, yeah, I just think, and you'll get Njoku back at the end of the year, which could actually go with Watson coming back as well. So I think the offense could be humming at the end of the year. So I can't see anything wrong with picking up Deshaun.
And if they can make it to 500 by the time Watson's back and they're 5-5, mate, that's pretty much a playoff team in the AFC at the moment. Yep. And then you're only introducing a better player at the most important position. So, yeah, I just think there's a lot to be said for not just Watson there, but also other Browns pieces. And so maybe Cooper's not attainable, but you know, yeah, maybe it is a great little chance to squirrel away at Donovan Peoples-Jones if you're in a position where this is only for people who clearly, if you're 2-6 in your fantasy league at the moment, this is not going to save your season. But if you're at a position where you're on the edge of the playoffs and you're doing it kind of piecemealing it together with a quarterback who you don't completely love, maybe this is the opportunity to trade away something that's on your bench, just try and finagle Watson because he will improve you down the back end. And at this point, if you're kind of on the edge of that playoff bubble, you're looking for upside, right?
With what we're looking at, it is not great.
Look, Goff, I was looking at him in the first round.
He wasn't, but I was rattled at wide receiver this week. I guarantee I go last.
Yeah, wide receiver is very, very interesting.
I'm not sure about really any of them, so we'll just say Dr. Google.
Yeah, I wasn't actually, I was thinking about picking him up, but then, yeah, I just didn't. I'm going with Irv Smith Jr.
Ooh, nice.
Smooches will have to wait.
Stitches, I was ready for that one.
Again, I don't really want to have this combo with you, but I'm going to have to bring up James Conner as one of my buy lows. I've mentioned this earlier, sort of foreskinned it in other weeks that I thought he would be in my list here. And again, it's more about the offense. He's running back 46 on the year because he's been injured basically all year.
Yeah.
But based off the timeline, he should be back in time to play this week against the 26th ranked rushing defense in Seattle. Far more opportunities, as mentioned, with Hopkins back in the team. So I just think he's probably going to be undervalued. I'm not saying he's going to be valued at a running back 46. People aren't idiots. They're going to know that there's a reason why he's that low. But I still think he's going to be a bit undervalued coming back. And I think he could walk. People are saying Eno, has earned himself some spot. I never thought that James Conner was going to get 100% of the work anyway, even at the start of the year. Like, I still think it's going to be more of like a 70-30 split to Conner. Which is enough in this offense because the running back gets a lot of touchdowns in this offense, as we've seen. So I think he could come back and be a touchdown monster again at the end of the year. He's just got to stay healthy.
Where he gets 2/3 of the work, that's still 15 carries plus whatever targets. Like, it's fine. And I mean, what are the chances you've got to pay that level of production, James Conner, to get him today? I don't know. If you're the James Conner owner and you're struggling on record, you might listen to an offer.
You'd be pissed off. I know some James Conner owners. I'm one in that league I just mentioned, where I just got Gabe Davis. It's kind of frustrating own because even if you've got Eno, it's kind of annoying. Like, it's just so you're sort of waiting for Conner to come back and and then you just basically force into playing Eno, and it just doesn't feel as good. You kind of want the guy that you drafted. So hopefully he's back sooner rather than later. He should be back this week. He's missed definitely the right amount of time for the injury he's had. So let's hope he's back in. I'm just hoping that because they've given him time, that when he does come back, he's not going to, walk into 20, 30% and ease him in. I think they're going to only bring him back when he's close to 100%.
Look, I think if he doesn't come back for this week, it's a tough buy because his next matchups, there's some pretty tough run defenses only. So Rams, 49ers, bye are the three after it. It's like, man, he's not back this week. That's tough to trade for. So again, I think this might be one where if you're in a particular position record-wise, it makes more sense, do you reckon?
Yeah, for sure. And it obviously depends what you can get him for. Like, test out the owner of James Conner and how pissed off they are. Especially the owner that doesn't have Eno, because if you've got Eno, it's a little bit of a safety blanket. If there's someone out there with James Conner and they haven't been able to just play Eno whenever James Conner's not playing, I think that would be one that they're a bit more pissed off the situation. So they might be, especially if they don't have many running backs around them, go offer them, a Jamal Williams and something, go offer them someone who's playing well at running back, and then maybe another small piece to try and get a James Conner, because they might need to win now if you don't need to win now. And even if you don't need to win, like even if you're 4-4, I still would be trying to make this move. I just think he's going to be very good. And then you mentioned the rushing defense. At least in this offense, he gets a lot of passing work. And because he's such a touchdown threat, I feel like those can happen against anyone. So there's always a good chance he's going to...
Touchdowns are fluky.
Not going to have a big yards per carry in those games, but there's a decent chance he's going to catch 4 or 5 passes and possibly dive over. So, I wouldn't be too worried about those either.
Yeah, he seems to sort of get between sort of 4 and 6 targets a game when he's playing the full complement of snaps. And it's hard to ask more than that. There's good wide receivers who are startable who get 6 targets in a game.
Absolutely.
And this guy then runs on top of it. So, it's hard to argue that he's a worthwhile start. I'll never argue that James Conner isn't a worthwhile start. It's the thing I've always argued about is it's tough to know how much he's going to play, and that kind of makes it hard. So this year that's come up, but when he plays, you can never question how valuable he is.
No, not at all.
And I mean, I kind of looked at matchups a lot when I was looking at this stuff, which is why then I kind of went off script a bit with some of my buys. So here I am, like, go and buy a guy who's not even playing yet. There's kind of a theme there because my next one that I wanted to bring up is also a guy who's kind of not even playing yet. And I'm suggesting, I think I wish you hadn't mentioned Keenan Allen before, because I think this is, again, it's a particular roster who can do this to go and get him, because he is a little older and he is rehabbing a hamstring injury that's taken far longer than you might have thought. The volume he gets if he is on a field is unquestionable, and the guy who owns him may be 3-5 and crapping himself. And if you're in a position where you're, say, 5-3 or better, this is the kind of play that you can make where you can shed a guy who's like your flex starter and a bench piece to go and get this guy, because that will help that guy. He's getting 0 right now. You can eat the 0 right now, and in 2 weeks' time, Allen's back, played a game, got running. Now he's integrated, and your flex is Keenan Allen. Fuck me, not bad.
Wide receiver 119, I believe he's on the here. Obviously, again, people aren't stupid; they understand why. My only issue with it is I just think people have held out this long that they're probably just like so stubborn that they may not let him go for the price you want him to. It's one of those ones where if he was like I said with last year, right, with Keenan Allen, he was just underperforming. Like, he was still playing. I wasn't worried about him at all. He was just underperforming for what I expected. And I thought that I would rather trade for a guy who's out there playing but underperforming, but you see a roadmap for, than someone that's kind of just not playing at all. Because I've got my worries about his injuries and the fact that he's into his 30s now. He's getting on, obviously, as well. And a hamstring injury is just freaking me out. Like, every time it looks like he's coming back, he doesn't play. And, you hear a couple of limited reports and then all of a sudden he's out. You don't know if he's actually tweaking it again during those practices, and then that's why they're out. They don't really have to tell us that. So, it's one you got to proceed with caution. It's one, like Definitely. You said, I would probably want to be a team that's 6-1 or 5-2 or something like that. Like, I'd want to be high up, taking that risk. I wouldn't want him to be someone I'm relying on as my wide receiver 2 or something like that. It's one that you want to take a swing for the stars. And we've talked about this, though. Like, if you're in a league where you are killing it early, especially a league like I mentioned last year that, there's not really any sort of thing to strive for in terms of trying to get first, second, third, whatever. You don't really get a bye or anything. It's just like a 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7 or something. Yeah. That's the perfect move to make. Like, try and get someone who you think could actually be way more valuable in the run home than they are now. And that's exactly what you're saying is like, we know people aren't just going to give Keenan Allen up for nothing, but if you can get even 20% less than what you could have 4 weeks ago, it still feels like a win if he can come back to 80-90% of what Keenan Allen does. So that's the hope.
Yeah. So like there's a world where you might have, just because the way drafts went, you might have, say, I don't know, like Mike Evans and Amari Cooper as your starting wide receivers. And your flex is somebody like, I don't know, Christian Kirk. You could make any mixture of, say, the Christian Kirk and something else, because you can't deny he's not getting the targets. He's getting points, and somebody else from your bench to the Keenan Allen owner and go, here's some points from 2 guys.
Yep.
Now you don't have to worry about this. Let me take the risk, because I'm in a position where I can absorb some risk. I'm 5-3. I'm 6-2. You need to win today. That's your argument. And I think difficult, as you say, like, so Keenan Allen has turned 30. And while he didn't practice on Monday, our time, it is now Tuesday, US time, and there hasn't been a practice report for that, which is fair enough. And by the time this goes to air, it'll be sort of Thursday, US time. So it does make it sort of difficult to track. But, I mean, have a look at his run. This is the thing. The minute he's on the field, have a crack at his run home, right? You've got, hang on, let me type him back in. I've been jumping between screens here. He's got the run that he would have had in the last couple of weeks have been Houston, Cleveland, Denver, Seattle, all really great pass defenses. Played Seattle, one little tweak, been on the bye, comes back to Atlanta, San Francisco, Kansas City, Arizona. That is a 4-pack I could score points against if you trot me out there. And then you get the Raiders, who are on the fringe of that shite group. And then Miami, Tennessee. It's like 6 out of the next 7 are just gravy. Gravy. He'll score 20 against a bunch of them who's on the field, and there's no question about it. So this is where the benefit comes in, is that I started looking at, well, who are you playing? Because this is a lot of, no matter what position you're in, if Allen is closer to going and you are a lesser team, you can go after this guy from somebody else who's in a position where they just have nothing to play for.
My next player caught AIDS in overtime, apparently. He decided he had dick fingers.
ETN.
How nervous are you?
Yeah, I've been nervous. We've benched him already in a 16-team league, so...
And what's he even doing? Has he got the Auslan lady on the sideline sending it in?
He had barely anything in week 1, even though he jagged a touchdown in garbage time.
Should we move on to a sunnier subject, please?
Yeah.
I'm feeling sad.
Against the Titans, because it's the Titans, and my God, I'm giving them back the Guinness World Record for our secondary. Like, they are just dog shit.
Dr. Goodcall definitely diagnosing correctly.
They were 24th against quarterback in 2021. I think they're going to be 50th this year. They are so bad.
Matty, what's going on over there?
I'm very happy about this.
I'll go to my last one, and this guy's, got a little bit of injury cloud to him as well.
Okay.
Wide receiver 91. It's Michael Gallup of the Cowboys. So Dak is back, as we know. We just saw him. He is well and truly back after his game last week. Gallup has had a few weeks back to get into the flow after his ACL tear. He's the clear number 2 guy behind CD. On bye this week, but a big chance of a second half breakout, I believe. I've really liked what I've seen. He's obviously had the occasional, I think he did actually even had a goose a couple of weeks ago. But that's pretty much what I'm basing this off, though, is I don't think those are going to continue. I just think that was a general try to get him back into the offense after an ACL tear, as mentioned. So I just think in general after this bye, they're going to realise who their guys are, and they're going to make a deep run at this in the second half of the year. Their guys back at quarterback, I think they're going to have a very structured system where it's CD on top, and then they definitely be going to Michael Gallup a lot. I think you're going to see less Noah Brown than you saw earlier in the year. I just think Gallup's set up for success in the second half of the year, and I really don't think it's going to take much to pick him up. I think he might even be on some waivers, especially with him having a bye this upcoming week. I think there's a huge opportunity to take to Gallup on home and win the title.
Oh, come on. Oh, I like that. Gallup
that was on the
home.
spot, mate. Definitely not part of my notes.
Can I just say, for people who don't live on this island, Melbourne Cup Day yesterday too. So, this is just perfect that he's come up with a horse racing analogy.
Yeah.
We just had the richest race on the island yesterday. For folks who are not from this island too, Google up Melbourne Cup. It's great. There's some good news there. Wow. Okay, so we were pretty big proponents of the Michael Gallup thing earlier in the year too, because he was coming into the season pretty iffy, and we're like, this is how cheap you can get this guy. And he's played, and then I don't know. I'm not sure that he returned the value, but certainly the targets look like they could be there. And when they let go of Dennis Houston, you're like, well, okay, that's pretty good. So they're going to roll with Michael Gallup and Noah Brown. And Noah Brown's clearly not Michael Gallup. So it kind of only makes me feel firmer that when Gallup's back, he's clearly the target after CeeDee Lamb.
Absolutely. And I just think the offense is going to hum more than you've seen. I know their defense can keep them in games, and sometimes second halves they might be up by too much, and you saw that last year. But I just think Dak's going to want to prove himself after this injury, and he obviously had a bit of a quiet one against the Lions in his first game back, which I don't really hold against him. He was out for a while, and last week he was just on fire against the Bears earlier in that game, and I just think it's going to be more of the same in some of these plus matchups in the second half of the year. And I think Michael Gallup at wide receiver 91 value, I just think he can be picked up off some waivers. I think he can be easily acquired in some trades. He might even be a throw-in at the end of the trade. And I just think that's a perfect guy to, get value out of in the second half of the year.
I think that's how you go after him, don't you? Is you just go, all right, I'm going to trade you for a guy I really want. Just throw Michael Gallup in as well.
Just chuck me Gallup, yeah. It's chuck me Gallup.
That's classic Talor right there. That fucking is.
Absolutely.
Just balance up there. Let's make this a 2 for 2. Just Gallup in there.
Why not? Just sneak him in there.
No, I like that. And I mean, I like Michael Gallup. I don't even really have many shares of him. I kind of feel a bit guilty because I like him, and I tell people I like him, and then I don't fucking own him anywhere. So I might have to fix that. You're going to hate my last one because I think you've actually got a personal vendetta against this guy. And it's not just
brought this up for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I just thought that you would dislike Keenan Allen because of the injury, and I thought for Watson because he's not even playing. But I know you hate Melvin Gordon.
Oh, God.
This is why the case is perfect.
The person hates him the most is on this podcast tonight. So
no, that's true.
me and Jod will be throwing his fists in the air listening to this wherever he listens to it. But yeah, he'll get on the rant, Jock. But look, okay. make your case for that 3-player. I can't even call it a running back monster or anything. It's a running back sloth.
I don't think it's as sloth as it seems, because so you're getting Gordon out there to start it, and then they get near the goal line, and I know Latavius Murray runs one in at the end of that game against the Jags, but anytime they were in that 20, it was Gordon who was in there, and that was really the only drive where that was the exception. So that's a pretty specific situation where it was under 2 minutes and they were trailing. I'm not sure that they're trailing that much. You know what I mean? I know they just got rid of Bradley Chubb, but we saw this when they got rid of Von Miller. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, you know what the Denver defense needed was to get rid of Von Miller. And all of a sudden, they stepped up a whole gear. And it's amazing what it can do when you take out a really big body from a defense, and then other people actually get to kind of step up and shine. Also, have a crack at this, right? So they're on the bye in week 9, right? No trouble. So they come back against Tennessee, the vaunted running defense. Okay, I get that too. Raiders, Carolina Panthers, Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City, Arizona. 5 in a row. All shit. All bottom 10 running defenses, 5 in a row. And that takes you all the way, not just to the end of the regular season, but into the first week of the playoffs. It's kind of fun and hard to go past a guy who will get you the touchdown.
No, I mean you've got the stats there to say they're good matchups, which I completely understand. That's what you got to look for a lot in running back. I'm just personally someone that's not touching it. I just cannot stand a 3-person timeshare that it seems like it's going to be. And honestly, I don't see how it's not going to be. I don't think Denver trades for Chase Edmonds to completely not use him, sort of like what Miami did. I think he's going to be involved. I don't think he'll be someone that'll take goal line work, so that definitely helps for you. I think he's going to be more the passing downs guy.
It's definitely the death of Boone. Boone is gone, and that's fine. He was already gone anyway.
Latavius obviously taking some goal line work is a little bit of a worry. I think in general, Gordon probably out of the 3 would be the one you would want. Yeah. I just don't know what that looks like week to week. If the Broncos were humming a bit more on offense, I'd feel a lot better about it because I don't know how much goal line work there will be if Russ is just being an absolute turd like he's been this year. So I do have my concerns about how much red zone work there will actually be for Melvin Gordon. But again, look, it's fine. He wouldn't have a very high price tag, put it that way. Like if you're going out there looking for him, he's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. So
running back 37.
Yeah, that's 37. One of the ones. I won't sit here and say I agree with it, but I won't hammer you for it either because I just don't think it's going to cost you much to go out and do it.
No, I think for a guy who's then, so he started in like 25% of leagues because he's outside the top 35 at running back. So people in 10-team leagues aren't even flexing him, right? No. And I don't think it costs you much to get him. And, I mean, this is the James Conner argument too. He's getting a handful of targets every game too.
Yep.
Just everywhere you look, there's opportunities for him to do something. And the least talented guy in the league can do a heap with opportunity. And this guy's getting opportunity. So, I don't know. I know what you're saying about you get Chase Edmonds in there for a reason. I mean, you could have said that about Latavius Murray, who cost him nothing, who's going to disappear, and Boone, who he turned up for about 3 weeks there, and now he's gone as well. Like the only person in this whole thing who seems to have actually any value to them at all is Melvin Gordon. Oddly,
yep.
I don't know. I believe him. I just believe him.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
And they just went and, I don't know, put up 40 fucking points. And then none of it went to basically anyone. It didn't make any sense.
It's okay, so I did the math wrong there.
Oh, you definitely weren't wrong. I was just trying to work out what it had anything to do with TJ Moore.
Aussie.
Baker sucks pure ass. Well, he's so bad.
I think it's Baker, to be honest. That's the problem.
NFL.
One should have been a Hall of Fame if he didn't get fucked up.
I'll take Matty C's poker.
Fantasy.
To the Colts' credit, they've got great fans who send out death threats to people because they said that their comment didn't age well.
He had a photo, I'm assuming it was his kid. Looks like he was from Fraggle Rock.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
I hope he doesn't listen to the rest of the fucking podcast. He'll lose it even more.
Like, I'm not defending AV or Le'Veon. They're both shitheads.
Live trade from me. Ding, 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 ring the bell. Not in Astro League, a completely different league. I actually just traded Jamal Williams for Gabe Davis.
Wow.
Yep. So
you could not have done that trade a month ago. My God. No one was parting with Williams.
Full PPR league. And I'm heavier at running back than I am at wide receiver, and that is goes without saying. So it was a good trade for me, I think, because I literally picked up Jamal Williams off waivers in that league.
And a month ago, you couldn't get him for love nor money. No way.
No, and the only problem with Gabe at the moment is he is very hit and miss. But in the end, when I've got a team that I'm not trotting out absolute stars in wide receiver at the moment anyway, I'm kind of happy to wear the lows with the highs, I think, because if you can win me some weeks, then let's do it. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that trade.
Well done, man. Well done. I'll tell you, I'm going to celebrate by letting you go next.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir. I just
thought Matt has arrived.
I thought I'd say that because this is the kind of thing that we do. Because if, let's say, you saw Gabe Davis as a buy low candidate, which I think he could actually fit, that would have been the perfect sort of trade to do because you might even see Jamal Williams as a regression candidate because he's running back 17 and has Swift obviously getting more and more involved. So it sort of fits this segment as it is.
Beautifully. My God. Yeah, that's perfect.